Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we are going to take a look at the brand new news that has dropped on the Japanese side. Hey look, I almost said it right. Almost got through it. I like a little realism in my videos. Anyway, long story short, we kind of know what this was going to be all about, so let's just get right into it and talk about it. First of all, we are going to be getting maintenance on the 20th. It is going to be 5 hours long. This is right in the middle of a big arena week, so try and spend, of course, all your orbs. And we're also hoping that it's going to be, just a pretty simple little maintenance. Probably not going to be any extended, but you never know. So try and use everything you can. Weapon raid will end before this is done anyway. We'll just see some new units being added, some fixes, and a new event, so it should, again, be pretty simple, but it is still a 5-hour maintenance, so yeah, that's kind of that. Now, of course, the event is going to be what I am assuming is going to be our first Octopath Traveler event, and the reason I say first, I'll get into that more in the units, but seeing how Xenogears was, I'm thinking that we're going to see a second event of this pretty soon. And I'm not entirely convinced that these are the best units to go for, but okay, I'm getting really ahead of myself. So, standard raid, we all know how this works. There won't be any free raid units in this one, doesn't look like, so nothing to really get excited about, but hey, if you can get some Trust Mastery Moogles off this, then that's probably better than getting those units anyway. Now, equipment that we'll see from this is a spear with 98 attack and 10% defense. Nothing really that great there. A dagger with 62 attack and light resistance of 20%. This might be worth getting. This might be elemental resistance, especially on something like who would equip this, like a healer or maybe, a support unit or a tank. Extra light resistance might be invaluable, so I think the dagger is pretty good. The two materials are attack and magic of 10% with camouflage on it. Gotta say, interested with the percentages of the camouflage. It's 25%, but might be decent enough to get a couple of them too, which is good because, it's a raid event. You'll probably get lots of materials and you'll need to spend them on something. Now, next up are the units, and I'm a little surprised who we saw, but I'm not so surprised at what most of these units ended up being. So let's drop all the way to the bottom, starting with our 3-star, which is Tressa. Tressa's TMR is attack and magic 15% and EXP up. And that's all I really need to say about that. Doesn't sound very interesting. Her limit burst is just single target damage. She has some support abilities, some self-healing abilities, some AoE wind damage, basically nothing much. TMR fodder, and I'm not even convinced that the TMR is that good because EXP up, you normally don't want on an attack and magic. It doesn't really do anything because chances are most of your units are maxed out anyway. So I'm pretty sure that I'm rating that TMR is really incredibly low. Maybe for new players in the game who want an alternative to getting or to leveling their units, but it still doesn't seem that good. Next up is Therion, and Therion is our 4 to 6-star. Again, probably not going to be very powerful, which, it's a little sad, but we'll continue on. Anyway, TMR, this one is more interesting. An accessory with 12 attack, 26% defense, some percentage of dodge, and camouflage. Now, the camouflage makes this interesting because putting this on a healer might be okay. But here's the thing. This needs to compete with either Noctis's Ring or 20-sided die. If it can't top either, or at least match either of those, then this probably isn't worth it for long-time players who have an established dodge tank. So again, maybe good for new players, but really not that great probably for players who already have a fully established dodge tank. As for the unit himself, some debuffing skills, some damage, some fire damage, some buffing of his own skills, but nothing in his kit looks really all that interesting, so I'm basically classifying him as okay, this is a unit that's in the game. Now, with that being said, I'm going to say that the 5 stars are fairly interesting this time. So, first of all, we have Albrecht. Albrecht's TMR is a materia, 40% HP, 20% defense, and paralysis immunity. This just is nice for a lot of different units. It's good for support units, it's good for tanks. 40% HP on a basic materia is a lot. It's actually a fair amount of HP. And the paralysis immunity is actually nice too, because before that, something that I've been relying on is getting my paralysis immunity off of, I believe it's the cannon guy's hat, who I can't remember his name, and even if you tell me in the comments, I'm still not going to remember cannon guy's name, because, yeah, it's cannon guy. Now, Super DMR, this is a pretty sexy little light armor. 1000 HP, 62 defense, 55 spirit, and attack and defense plus 20%. The attack I'm not super crazy about because you wouldn't put this on an attacker anyway. The 20% attack can be easily outdone by a lot of other different armors, so this is not a Super DMR for attackers. It's potentially really good for tanks. Might be absolutely great on Awakened Rain. Also good on probably just a regular tank, but 1000 HP is a fair amount of HP on a defense-orientated thing. But is this super necessary? Probably not, and here's the big reason why. Tanks really aren't depending on their HP as much recently as they are just depending on having evasion. Physical tanks are pretty much based in the realm of evasion and nothing else. So while this armor is really pretty, cool, I don't think it's super needed. Now, limit burst wise, now we're going to get into his kit. This guy is basically a tank. First of all, his limit burst is AoE damage mitigation and physical cover. I'm really interested to see how long the physical cover lasts, what percentage it has, because it is a limit burst, but also the AoE damage mitigation percentage too. I'll talk a little bit more about this why in a second, but in his kit he has strong attacks while protecting allies. If it's only protecting one ally, then who really cares? Because you're going to have to split this guy either between attack or defense, depending on if these attacks are based on his attack. That means you're going to have a lower defense. And this guy might just be a new version of Elfrida. And while Elfrida is definitely not bad as a provoke tank, I'm just not sure how useful these abilities are going to be just on the text alone. And if you think they're going to be great, great. I guess we'll find out when the data's out, but I'm not putting in much stock into it. Has Provoke with mitigation, which is definitely better. Physical cover, possibly as a passive, but it's not very well explained. And Alum's data in these things lately has been a little spotty, so okay. Single target defense scaling damage with attack and defense debuff. Okay, so this one definitely relies on his defense stat. Seems like the other ones won't. And while those abilities are nice to have, tanks are usually defending or AoE covering, so I'm not sure how great. In his 7-star, he gets a self-defense massive buff, HP regen, unlocks cover boost for 5 turns. Whatever cover boost is. Oh wait, there's a description right below. Cover boost is a physical cover with high mitigation rate and long duration. So, long story short, what is this guy? He is essentially he's a physical cover tank. It looks like he has some provoke too with mitigation, which is fine. This guy basically sounds like a limited edition CG Seghart. For a whole bunch of reasons. One, their limit bursts are really sounding the same, except one provides cover, the other does damage, but both do AoE damage mitigation. If it's not stronger than Seghart, if you have Seghart, this is probably a really easy character to pass on. providing that his attack isn't something insane where he can do it all at once, but since there's no mention of a W ability, probably pretty safe here. Also, CG Seghart has a attack that defense scales that also breaks all stats as opposed to just attack and defense, so I definitely don't like that about Albrecht's kit. And the other thing is, while this guy has Provoke and Mitigation, Seghart has Provoke and Charm Immunity, which basically just makes me think that Seghart is better than this guy for a whole bunch of reasons. In his 7-star, really depends on that defense massive buff. Seghart also can get a defense massive buff by dropping down, but here's the big thing that is kind of true about defense tanks on the JP side. Defense tanks really rely on evasion right now, and evasion either for Provoke or AoE cover. So any HP buff or defense buff is nice, but how necessary it is really depends. So early impressions of this, I'm not super convinced that this guy is anything other than TMR fodder, and not even worth a super TMR. So data-wise, I will be happy to eat my words, but based on the early data, if you want my impressions on him, I'm not impressed. If you have Seghart, this is probably an easy pass of a character. And then we have Primrose, and okay, Primrose, first of all, her TMR is a 16 defense, 40 stat spirit accessory. That's pretty incredible for an accessory. Obviously not better than Rem's in Super TMR, but really close. 16 defense and 40 spirit makes this essentially just a defensive tool, but it also has 40% spirit on it too, so it's half of Rem's Super TMR, and Petrify immunity too. Ladies and gentlemen, out of all the TMRs so far, this is easily the best in this collaboration. Would not mind getting Primrose just for that TMR, but that's pretty greedy. Super TMR is a 30% magic... wait, is it an accessory? No, it isn't. It's a materia. Sorry. Thought I saw an accessory icon there. Must have been just scrolling. Anyway, Super TMR is a magic plus 30%, spirit plus 60%, and guts. Guts is probably surviving a fatal hit, if I'm right. 30% magic doesn't seem that great. 60% spirit is definitely amazing for healers. This material also might be good for CG Citra. How much CG Citra is being run? So-so. I don't know if it's necessarily worth getting on its own. But definitely, I think the best Super TMR and the best TMR on this single unit. Now, kit-wise, her Limit Burst is an AoE attack, defense, magic, and spirit buff, HP and MP regen, and fill Limit Burst gauge. Sounds all fantastic on paper, but percentages will matter on this one. She will be essentially probably competing against Ignis, CG Nicole, as well as Eurisha. And whether this girl will be any good, I don't know. Really depends on the percentages. We're probably looking at 150%. I doubt they'll make her 160%, regardless of who she is or what she's from. Long story short, I think this banner is being so... well, save those general impressions for the end. She is a support unit. She has a AoE, HP, and MP, and Limit Burst fill rate abilities. She has an AoE attack up and physical and magical beast killer. Killers are cool, but only if you're fighting a beast. And the enemy doesn't look like a beast this time, so it doesn't seem that great. But hey, maybe you can kill Ifrit faster with her. She also has an AoE dark damage and dark imperil. This always feels like fluff on a buffer, just to have attacks. Like, don't get me wrong, CG Nicole's flood chaining is nice to have, but honestly, I'd still rather a defense-orientated CG Nicole that just keeps his chaining abilities off to the side, while the real units, like Axstar, do their job. So this depends on the dark percentage of Imperil, the AoE dark percent, but seeing how it looks like a lot of the attack buffers, attackers like Satan and Axstar aren't doing dark damage. Don't know how useful this is, and hell, even Golbez, one of the more powerful units that's come along recently that uses a lot of dark damage, and Nagi already have dark imperils in their kit, so this has to be a really good dark imperil. She also has W Song / Dance. Okay, in her 7-star, she has AoE, Mitigation, MP Regen, unlock 4 abilities for 5 turns, so 4 different abilities. That should be generally nice, and the MP Regen is nice too. The abilities are mostly stronger versions of her regular ability. So, a whole bunch of questions about Primrose. First of all, is she just a TMR and Super TMR character? Because both her TMR and Super TMR seem the best this event has to offer. Need to see what her boost percentages are on a lot of her stuff, as well as what the abilities that she unlocks are in her 7-star. Too many question marks, but probably I would say that this girl will just be on par with Eurasia. I don't think she'll really push the meta forward. Doesn't seem like this unit is really that. The other thing is the W Song and Dance. Her dance ability should just be, 1 turn. Shouldn't require multiple turns, but just in case, I'm going to put an asterisk on that pre-data. So, with all of that being said now, let's talk about the campaigns, because there's always a campaign. Now, the first campaign is a 5,000 Lapis, guaranteed 1 5-star. It's only 1 time. It's a 10+1, guaranteed Primrose or Albrecht, and you do not get PO tickets. Talk about the PO tickets in a second. This is pretty generous. I would definitely be hoping for a Primrose over an Albrecht, and I would definitely be hoping for multiple, but with no rate ups or anything. For 90% of people, this is just going to be a absolutely straight you get 1 of the 5 stars, and that's it. And you don't get any bonuses or anything extra. It's definitely cheap, which is kind of nice because Axstar came out recently, but honestly, I'm not, unless you're just going to get these characters at 7 stars, it's probably not a good idea to commit to this. Now, of course, there are limited tickets. Now, the Octopath Traveler tickets are only for this event. Even if we do get another Octopath event next month, these tickets will not be used for anything else. Chances are we'll see 2 tickets given away free in the raid rewards, and then you'll have to spend about 15k Lapis to get 3 tickets, to get 1 free one. 5 of these tickets can be exchanged for either a Primrose or an Albrecht of your choice. Alright, so here's my general evaluation of this event. I think a lot of the TMRs on these units are pretty mediocre or incredibly mediocre, I should say, for long-term players. There really isn't that much special right now. Oh yeah, and the music died, didn't it? Because that's how long this video has been going. But you guys want impressions, so I'll give you impression. The 3-star unit is pretty whatever. There is absolutely nothing special, not even a TMR here that I would recommend. This is totally dependent on the percentages. A nice TMR for tanks and potentially healers, but the unit himself, by the looks of it, doesn't have anything that makes him essentially special over CG Seikhard. So really, if his kit comes out and it's not anything super better than Seikhard, probably an easy pass on this unit. As for Primrose, Primrose has a absolutely baller TMR. Absolutely just amazing. That thing is disgusting for healers. However, with that being said, in Primrose's kit, it really depends on percentages and how she stacks against current healers. Because chances are she's another unit where you have to put a fair amount of resources into maxing out her limit burst. And if you can't do that, you probably are just better to stick with CG Nicole or Eurasia, who are already 2 incredible top 2 healers. Or Ignis. But more so Eurasia or CG Nicole. Long story short, This banner seems okay. I really don't think it is anything special. If you're a fan of the game, you'll probably want these units, but for anyone who has a Seg Heart, as well as a full defense or evasion kit, and just doesn't need anything that's on Primrose, probably an easy skip. And the other reason is because I really think that this is only part 1 of Octopath. I think we'll see part 2 next month, kind of like Xenogears. This is an early guess, but I think this is what's going to happen. And next month will probably be Ophelia and Agna. Agna being, I can't remember what the hunter's name is, but you probably already corrected me in the comments, so it doesn't matter. Long story short, I think that will be a more interesting banner than this banner. One, Ophelia is a healer, and there's probably no way they're not going to make Ophelia a 5-star healer. And that is potentially interesting because we haven't seen a new healer enter the game since Volca. So that might be really big. Maybe. The other reason is that I think the Hunter character, she is incredibly popular right now. So I would expect her to be a 5-star, and I would expect her to be a really good bow user. Both of those are far more interesting than a tank who may not be better than CG Seghart, and Primrose, who just may not be better than the healers you probably already have. For people without a healer, Primrose might be worth it. Wait for the data. That's about it. So that's all for this video. I will see you in the next one, when we probably are taking a look at what these units ended up being. So, thank you very much. I will see you all next time.